All right, guys, good evening. We're going to go ahead and go through some ECDesign tips for you guys. This is primarily for beginners, but there might be some tips in here that some of you other guys want to check out. So, first off, you're going to launch your program, and the first thing you're going to see is a loading screen. I suggest that you always check for updates because we're always putting new models in. They're making little tweaks to the program all the time. There's also going to be a new beta version coming out within the next week is what they told me. And that's going to have some more enhancements, and when it goes through beta, then it'll be ready for everyone. So when you start your program, do the ECDesign check. If you guys run into problems, there's a support forum button at the start screen, and when you click that, you're going to wind up on a page that looks like this. This has common questions and answers. But if you have a specific problem or a bug or something, there's a button at the top that says Submit a Request. That'll take you to their support form, and basically you enter your information, tell them what's going on. You'll have to enter your ECDesign license and send it, and they are very good at getting support back to you quickly. You guys are definitely welcome to contact me. There are some things that I can help you with, but if it's beyond my capability, then I'm going to go ahead and direct you to that. So that's it. One thing that I do want to point out, you can use ECDesign when you're offline, right? But the program will go and check to make sure that your license is valid once every 7 days. So what that means is if you lay out a customer layout on Monday and you don't have you're not scheduled to visit them for 2 weeks, and it's on your laptop and you don't fire up the program until you get to the customer's place, it's going to try to check your license, and you might be sitting kind of struggling because you won't be able to run the program because it hasn't had that opportunity to check. So, you would want to obviously start up the program the night before, make it validate the license, and then you can go take your laptop and give your presentation. I know I had a couple guys run into that problem. All right. So with those things said, what I'm going to do is go ahead and run through some tips that you guys may or may not know. We're going to go ahead and start ECDesign, and we're going to start a new project, and I'm going to call this one Webinar. And by default, it always saves to your document locations. We'll go ahead and use a drawing, and if you haven't already set up the settings, set it up in feet, unless you like metric. And I'm going to change the ceiling height. I always do this to usually about 15 feet. We're going to go ahead at this point. We'll go ahead and change the ceiling type, and I'll pick out one that I like. And the floor type, I'll go to industrial, and I'll choose concrete 2. I like that one. I'm not going to do the wallpaper yet, and we'll get to that in a minute. Now, when you do an import from drawing, there's one thing that you have to keep in mind. If it's a PDF, some PDFs that you'll get from your customers will be what they call layered PDFs. If that happens, you're going to have a hard time getting that document in. I'll give you an example here real quick. This is a big Audi dealership, and it is very complicated. It's got a lot of layers in it. If I try to import this into ECDesign, chances are it will struggle and possibly fail. But an easy way to get around it is just take a snip. So I'm going to go down to my start bar, and I've already got it up here. But if you just type snip, you'll find snipping tool. Once you have snipping tool, you can grab the area that you want to use, save that as a JPEG or something on your desktop. I'll just call it capture. Then we can close it. We still have the high detailed PDF, so we see measurement values. So then in ECDesign, if I say create project, it's going to prompt me for what file I want to use. I'm going to go to the desktop where I just saved that thing, and it's called capture, right there. And in no time, it comes right in. It's prompted me to calibrate the scale of the drawing. So what I can do is, I looked before and I know that these gaps here are 22 feet. I'll just make it real quick. Calibrate scale. Call it 22 feet. And it's instantly scaled. Now the detail's not the greatest, but that's okay because all we're really going to be doing with this is we're going to be making the walls with it. So that's one trick that you guys can remember, that if you're having problems importing a PDF, grab a snippet of it. That'll work better for you. So I'm not going to work with this big Audi dealership today. We're going to use something a little more simple. So I'm going to create a new project, and I'll call it Webinar 2. Again, I'll go from drawing, set my height to 15, scaling type, floor type, and say create project. This time I'm going to go to a smaller file. Now this is a shop that I've already laid out in the past. Let's see. Oh, I lost my drawing. Let's try that again. There we go. So on this particular guy, I know that this measurement here is 12 feet. So I'll calibrate the scale there. This is a doorway. All right, and now my drawings is scaled. For this particular shop, I'm not going to go into making the offices or anything. You guys can figure some of that stuff out. I can help you. But what we'll do is I'll show you what we're going to do tonight, and then I'll show you like a sort of a finished product. So real quickly, I'm going to go ahead and start drawing my rooms. You'll notice also I turn off the grid because the grid makes things a little harder to see. And if you're snapping when you're drawing your walls and it's snapping to where you don't want it to, all you have to do is hold down Shift, and that will take snapping off. Your rooms won't be perfectly square, but they'll be close enough. With my my rooms drawn, I can turn off Show PDF. So that's the setup that we're going to use. I'll go ahead and switch into 3D view. I'm just holding down the right mouse button as I'm moving around. You can turn that off if you hit this old game mode. Then wherever you move the mouse, that's where you look. To get out of that mode, you just hit escape. And then I'm back to holding down the right mouse button. So with our basic room drawn, I'm going to show you guys how to make some pits. Because I know that that's been sort of a problem for some guys. First off, let's go ahead and put some doors in here. We'll show the PDF again. I got a door over here, which they're industrial doors. By default, it actually loads up a nice 12 by 12 door. You can duplicate these doors, or if you just want to double click, all I'm doing to get these doors in there is just double clicking. And I think I got one more over here. All right, so I loaded up my doors. There's a gap in the middle here. I'm going to go back over to openings, and real quickly I'm just going to add an opening there. I don't know, I think I did that. Let's try that again. We'll delete that and go to opening. There we go. And that is also a 12 by 12. All right. With those things done, we can see that we've got some pretty quick doors and an opening. Now, when you navigate, I don't know, this may be a tip for you or not. You can use the W, A, S, D keys on your keyboard, or you can also use the up, down, left, right arrows. So moving forward is kind of a slow process. If I hold down Shift, it speeds up about double speed. To move up, I hit E. To move down, I hit Q. So you can use those things in a combination, and it really you can really kind of fly around in there. All right, I'm going to go ahead and turn off my image again, and I'll show you guys how to make a pit for a flush mount rack. First off, I'm going to go to my objects. I'm going to find the Hunter equipment, and we'll do lift racks. And I'll pick like an RX-16 flush. I'm just holding it and dragging it in. I think I made a duplicate there. So obviously the first thing we need to do is turn it around, it's facing the wrong way. Grab that little handle, flip them around. So now I know where my rack's going to go. What I need to do is draw another room. It sounds kind of silly, but that's the way we're going to do it. So I go back to my Rooms tab and I click Draw Room. So when I start drawing, it's going to start laying out a room shape. And it doesn't have to be perfect. We just need to get the basic shape of it for now. I'm going to click that room, and you can see that it's selected. And instead of the floor height being 0, I'm going to set it at -12 inches. I did feet before. Oops. I just deleted it. Let's try that again. Our room. Floor height, -12 inches. And at this point, what we also want to do is hide the walls. So I'll hide the walls. I'm going to move my camera over a little bit so we don't have to keep kind of flipping around here. So I can look at my room and see that it's a little offset. Go back into Rooms, move the sides in, move that side out a little bit. Now let's take a look at it in 3D. And pretty simple. I mean, that didn't take very long at all. If I wouldn't have messed up, it would have been a little quicker. But that's how you can make pits. You can make pits for, obviously, passenger car racks. You can also do them for heavy-duty racks. If you know, we've got a heavy-duty PT pit in here now. So it would be the same process. Obviously, if I drop that in, I'm going to have to do some rearranging. But same idea. You know, just obviously drop the floor height much lower so it accommodates the bottom of that pit. All right. That's one of the things I get asked for quite a bit, actually. The next thing I'm going to show you guys how to do, and some of you already know this, some of you don't, it's making custom wall textures. When I say textures, what I'm talking about is basically the image that's going to be used on a wall. If we look at 3D right now, obviously our walls are using the same texture or material of nothing. It's just plain white. But what I want to do is, and you can do this with a super simple program like MS Paint. I'll just fire up Paint real quick. And when you start your canvas, if you can resize it by grabbing a little handle down here to make it a little taller. But what I want to do is just grab a simple rectangle, and I'm going to set the outline as no color. And I'm going to set the fill as a solid color, and I'm going to choose maybe a gray color. And still solid. Oh, sorry. There we go. Let's stretch that out a little bit. And then I'm going to draw another box, and maybe we'll make that color black. It doesn't have to be perfect. All right, with those two things done now, what I want to do is hit the select button at the top, and I'm just going to draw a stripe right down the center of it. I'm going to go crop, and you'll see that it shrunk down quite a bit. That's okay. We're going to go File, Save As, and I'll just save it to my desktop, and I'll call it Gray Black Stripe. All right, we can go ahead and close Paint now. And I'm going to switch back over to 3D view. You can do this technically in 2D view, but I like to see it happen while I do it. So I'm going to go back into 3D view. And I'm going to grab a wall. And I do that by hitting the Edit Walls tool at the top. So you'll see that any surface that I hit, it's getting ready to edit that. So I'm going to go ahead and click it. And it brings up the wall property box. It's asking me for the wall material that I want to use. So I'm going to say Custom. You'll see anytime you load one up, it keeps those in your library. But I'm just going to go ahead and browse to that file that I just made. Gray Black Stripe. And I'm going to click Open. Make sure it's selected. And I'm going to say Use. Now it's asking me if all the materials, since there are all these walls, to use the same material, do I want it to mirror across those? I want to say yes. So now it's thrown that material across all the interior and exterior walls because it's using the same material at this point. But we see that it doesn't look right. So what I'm going to do is, while it's still selected, I'm going to adjust the vertical scale. Oh, I forgot to say copy to same material. Now let's try that. We'll adjust the vertical scale. And if I want to move that up or down a little bit, I can do that by adjusting the vertical pan. Once I'm done, I click Edit Walls again, and now we have a texture on our walls. Obviously, you can spend a lot of time making different textures. It's super easy to do, but if you guys need help doing it, just let me know. The next thing I'm going to talk about, because we've had this one come up before too, is how to make signs and like TVs with images and things on them. At this point, we can't put movies on TVs. That is a feature that is coming in an upcoming update. They keep promising me. But for now, what we can do is put static images on there. So I'm going to go to Custom Objects, and I'm going to click a wall poster. And I'm going to drag it into my scene. When it comes in, you'll notice that it's got, obviously, the rotation handle, but it's also got a directional arrow. That directional arrow is where the image is going to show up facing correctly. So I'm going to go ahead and click that guy, and it's going to ask me to select an image. I can change the height, the width, and the altitude in here. I can also change the altitude, which is distance off the floor. I can change that in 3D mode also. But for now, I'm just going to go ahead and leave these set at their default setting, and I'm going to say Select Image. Now, these images can be anything that you find on the internet, anything that you take pictures of. It doesn't matter, just as long as it's a PNG file or a JPEG file. So I'm going to go ahead and select Custom, and I'm going to grab one of the images that I've already put together. This is a Toro logo rectangle, and I'm going to say use. Now you notice it's behind my camera. If I wanted to go in immediately and look at it, I could, and then navigate around to this side and look at it. Another way I can do it is just simply move my camera. You can set up multiple cameras, but we'll just use this one for right now. So I'll go ahead and go back into 3D view. Now we're looking at our sign floating in space. I'm going to go back out of here. I'm going to grab that custom object again, rotate him, and put him over on this wall. And let's put him over on this wall. When you rotate things, it will snap to 90-degree increments. Not the camera, but objects. So now if I look at that guy, looks pretty good. You said we can also do this to TVs, which is kind of a neat thing. I'll go back out of the 3D view. I'm going to go to Objects, and I'm going to go down to Standard Indoor Libraries. You'll see that anytime there are standard objects, they're highlighted in blue. So vehicles, the heading says standard body shop, but it's actually just regular shop stuff. But this one I'm going to go to Indoor Libraries, and I'm going to click Electronics, and I'm going to scroll down till I see a nice 65-inch TV, and I'll drag him in. At this point, I'm not sure what side is forward because it didn't give me that nice option like it did on the sign. But I'm going to go ahead and pick an image for it. Images. I'll use the rectangle logo again. And at this point, I'm going to say no. So now if we go grab our camera again, move it back a little bit, we should tell pretty quickly if it's facing the right way. And I don't think it is. So in here, in the 3D view, I can go to Move Object or Move Edit Objects. It may be hard to see on my screen, but there's a yellow highlight around that television right now. I'm going to go to the Rotate tool. And with it selected, I'm just going to go ahead and rotate it. And there's no snap in the 3D mode for a lot of objects, but it gets pretty close. And if you have to have that real precision, you can do that in the 2D mode. Select the Move tool, move him up. So that's all it takes to add custom images to signs and televisions. And there's quite a selection of television and just all kinds of interior objects that you can use. You'll notice here, I mean, there's a Coke machine, there's speakers, there's all kinds of stuff. And then that's just in the electronics. Furniture groups is a pretty cool thing because they're predefined groups of tables and chairs and office equipment, office setups. So when we would do that office, if we were going to go ahead and cover that, it'd be super easy to drag in a desk and a table and stuff. All right, those are two things that I wanted to cover. Another thing that I wanted to show you guys is you may be familiar with what's called a sky dome, and what that is basically a image on the outside of the shop that makes it look like an environment. For our exercise tonight, what I think I'm going to do is let's go in here and delete these guys. and we'll go to gaps, because we've got doors on the one side, but what I want to do is put some windows in. Now, this particular shop doesn't actually have them, but for our illustration, I think you'll get a kind of a kick out of this. So I'm going to start adding a bunch of windows. And you got to be careful when you do the duplicate object, which is what I'm going to use here. You'll notice that one direction is black and the other was blue. It would make sense for me to go ahead and click that right button and have those windows come right. It's not going to happen. You have to go with the color direction that is telling you that that's where it's going to duplicate. So I'll run a bunch of windows down the wall here. Put back into 3D. All right. So now if I should have came out of 3D, let's go back in there. If you click this button here that says Sky Dome, it will give you a selection of what they've included in the program. Now, a lot of them are clouds and stuff. The closest one that I found to something that normally matches shops is this guy here, which sort of looks like an industrial park or something like that. But what you'll notice is it puts a nice, it gives the idea that there's something, back there. I know that some of you guys like to use, would like to use like images of your customer shop, looking out the customer shop. Well, I found a cheat that we can use because there's no way to use a custom image as a Sky Dome at this point. But I did find a cheat that we can use. So I'm going to go ahead and change the exterior back to white. That gets rid of the Sky Dome. I'm going to hit the Sky Dome button again and make that box go away. I'm going to exit 3D mode. I'm going to come out, get a little bit bigger view. I'm going to make a custom object. And what I'm going to use is basically the same thing that we did for that poster. Let me go ahead and delete this to get this out of the way. I lost a wall. That's why I lost my pit there for a little bit. So what I'm going to do is do custom object, and I'm going to make wall poster. Drag them in. And I'm going to change the width, the height, and the altitude a lot for this. So I'm going to make the width something like 300 feet. And so it takes up a lot. Maybe 300 is probably too big. Let's bump that down to 200. All right. The height, I'm going to make it probably, our shop is 15 feet high. I'm going to say probably 30 feet high. And the altitude for right now, I'm going to set it 0 feet. All right, so I've got a big poster on the outside of the building. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select an image, and I've already loaded up a couple images here. But you can use any image that you take off a camera. If you think about it, all we're going to do is blow it up real big. So I'm going to say custom, and I just downloaded a couple pictures. No, actually, this is sitting out, looking out front of Hunter. No, it's not. I'm going to load up an image here. Now, when we grab our camera and go back in and take a look at this, what we see is that big image sitting outside, which can actually make the effect of it being the outside of your customer shop. Now, I noticed that the image is really high, so what I can do is select Move Edit Objects, make sure I get that guy selected, and I'm going to pull him down. And I'm probably going to move him out a little bit. Now, obviously, you wouldn't want this to show up if you're doing like a live presentation. You don't want to be flying around the outside of the building with that weird thing sticking out there. But when you do your images or whatnot, it actually you can make it look like the outside of your guy's shop. So we'll do that for one side, and let's do another one for the other side. Again, I'll just do the same thing. 200 feet, 30 altitude. I could actually probably bump the altitude down to minus 12 feet. Select image, custom. This time I'll pick this mountain lake. No, if we look at it now, it's going to be flipped, so I'll go ahead and spin it around. Let's go back into 3D. And I messed it up, so let's go back out of here. Oh, it's because the height is 3.3, so let's change that to 30 feet. Let's take another look at it. That's a little better. I'm sure all of your customer shops look like this. They have that kind of view that you can see outside. But anyway, that's a sort of a cheat that you can use to get around the lack of a custom sky dome at this point. I'm going to make sure that they know that we would like that feature built in just to use as a regular sky dome. I've got one last tip that I want to show you guys, and that's on the presentation view. So I don't know if everyone's aware of it, but there's a pretty slick little presentation option that they've put into this program. Now, this was after one of the last few updates. While you're in 3D mode or 3D view, if you click the Create Presentation button up top, it will guide you through steps on creating a presentation. Just click Begin. Another thing that I'm going to bring up to them is I wanted to save this information. Right now it doesn't, but obviously you would put in your info. I won't take you through this whole thing, but you can select a logo to include a custom logo. Click Next. These are the views that are going to be included. If you wanted to include other views, you would add cameras, and then those cameras will show up in here. But what I want to do is make sort of a proposal. Now, unfortunately, the proposal won't have any pricing or anything, but we can show the parts that we use. You just hit Select Objects, and why didn't that work? Oh, let's try that again. Oh, it's because I don't have any objects. How about that? Let's bring some objects in there. You can move 3D objects in from 2D or 3D mode. 2D obviously will help you lay things out a little bit better, but I can just drag the components in here also and reposition them. And since we got rid of our pit, let's go ahead and put a different lift rack in there. I'm going to put an RX-10. That's pretty close. All right. Then when I'm done with that, I just close the assortments button and get out of Move Edit mode. Now let's try our presentation again. Since I didn't close the program, I think it saved the information that I had put in there. Let's try Select Objects again. So you'll see that the objects that I've dropped in here will show up. If you have, I'll show it to you in the finished version of the shop. If you have 100 other objects, you don't want all those things showing up. You want just 100 objects showing up. So you can choose and pick that just those guys will show up. So and then you would create, when you create the project, I'm sorry, I didn't show that to you. What it does is it builds a multi-page document. So again, obviously, you'd want to get rid of those extra images or the sky dome. If you use the built-in sky dome, you would want to get rid of those before you made the presentation. Otherwise, they show up. So with this simple shop created, I'll go ahead and close this. We'll go back over to the finished version of it. This was one of the earlier shops I laid out in ECDesign. You'll see that all of our doors, windows, everything has measurements. We flip into 3D mode. Whoop, sorry about that. That's what our 3D shop looks like. And obviously, man, you can spend a lot of time customizing it. You can spend a minimal amount of time customizing it. But, you know, obviously, if you're trying to make an impact, the more time you spend on it, the better. You can get pretty detailed with offices and interiors and stuff. And you can do exterior stuff, too. I didn't go too far on this, but you get the idea of it. So that's it. I picked out some of the topics that I know that some folks were having trouble with, and those are the ones that I tried to hit. Again, in the next week or so, I should be getting. I've been chosen as one of the beta participants for the new version. The new version is also they're promising much higher resolution renders. So, for instance, when you go to render your HD file, they say that it's going to be much better. I think it does a pretty good job right now. Come on. Yeah, there was the mode that I just rendered, which, like I said, I think it's pretty good, but they're promising that it's going to be much better. So we'll look forward to that. But that's about it, guys. If I got a few minutes that I can try to answer some questions if you have any. If not, I did record this too, so if you want to go back and take a look at it later, we'll have it up on the website for you guys. But that's all I've got. If anyone has any questions, go ahead and throw them out there, and I'll try to answer them. Again, you can always contact me too over phone or via email. The update charge will be free. Once you pay, when you get a year subscription, any updates that they do in that year, they're free to you. So if you own a license now, when the update hits, it will come at no charge. Obviously, when your year is up, you'll have to renew to keep the program running. So to get the program new, let me show you guys this. Let's close this down. I'll put this up on the screen, but I can also email this to whoever wants to. Just send me an email, dmckinley@hunter.com, and I'll forward this PDF to you. The website is www.easysail.se/hunter. And when you get there, it's going to prompt you for a password. When the password box comes up, just type in Hunter, and it will show you a sign-up form. And that's all you do. If you want to try the thing before you buy it, there's a 30-day free trial. So what you have to do is make sure that you download the automotive version of it, because they also have like a workout facility version. That's their other primary focus. get the 30-day trial, and you'll get all the models that are included in the entire program anyway. And we're constantly sending them models too. They've missed a few of them for me, and I'm trying to do follow-up to find out why they didn't get put in. But I've got a feeling it's because they've been really focusing on getting the new version together. Could use a panoramic picture. Yeah, you know, I think you could use a panoramic picture. What you would have to do is instead of making a wall or a poster on the outside, I think what you could probably do, is make a big cylinder for like that, for example, and make that cylinder, let's say 200 feet in radius. Now, I'm not sure if the material is going to show up on both sides or not. We can try it. Oh, that's going to look weird. Let's take a look at it. Yeah, that's not going to quite work right. I don't think you can really use a 360 panorama picture. Again, when we have the ability to include our own pictures in the Sky Dome, I think that will just take care of itself. For semi-truck vehicles, they've put a couple in. Let me get rid of this thing. They put a couple truck vehicles in here. He sent me a picture. When I say he, this is Richard from ECDesign. He's the CEO. He sent me a picture of vehicles that they planned on including, and one of them is a tractor trailer. However, all that they've got in there for me so far is just the tractor. I'm still waiting for the trailer. They do have like a box truck though too. So again, I think they're concentrating right now on getting the new version out. I'll keep on about tractor trailers. Patrick, yeah, that is USD. I'm not sure what the Canadian price would be, but I'll tell you, there's another thing. If you don't already have it, the program's normally $750, I think. They dropped it down to $500. When we initially pushed this program, they had a huge decrease in price. After that promotion was over, they popped it back up to $500, which is still a discount. But what I've suggested you guys doing is, if you can get 2 or 3 or 4 reps together, say, hey, we want to buy multiple licenses. What other kind of discount can we get? They've done that for some guys in the past. So I would definitely keep that in mind. The cost is the same every year, Jim. Can we do a movie walkthrough and record it for a customer? Currently, no. The only way you could do that is, I'm going to go ahead and switch to 3D view, is if I recorded my screen with a third-party program right now, obviously I could do it. And that is something that, again, is coming up in the next version. Not only the ability to record a movie, but also the ability to set up, say, 5 or 6 cameras and create a static presentation with those cameras, meaning that I click make presentation. It's going to take the views from those separate cameras and it's going to bundle them together and put them on a website. Similar to what you guys may have seen, like early real estate programs. You could kind of take a virtual tour and, you know, you look around this part and then you click a camera and then it takes you to a different part. That's what they're putting together for the new version. So that looks forward. That looks exciting. When trying to print, it cuts off a quarter of the page. Paul, I'm not sure what that means or what you're getting, but again, if you can send your results to me and I can take a look at them, if it's something that I can't help you with, I'm going to definitely recommend that you contact them because they're the masterminds behind the program. Steve, you're going to, again, man, you're going to have to check with them about pricing. I have no control over it. Have they started to update all the European equipment with American? Well, I guess it depends on what you're looking for updates. They've included a lot of cabinetry, which I don't think is really country-specific, toolboxes and stuff. As far as shop equipment, the shop equipment that they use is what is provided to them. Now, obviously, we're selling Hunter equipment, so we gave them as many Hunter pieces as we could. They're using generic European equipment for a lot of the things like lifts, I know. Another feature that they've talked about being included in the next version, I don't know if any of you are familiar with a program called SketchUp. SketchUp is a 3D program that's quite a bit harder to use than this program, but what it has is a library of hundreds of thousands of models available for free through their SketchUp library. Basically, you go to their website and you download these models. ECDesign is working on a function to import SketchUp models directly into this program. So if someone has made it on SketchUp, you should be able to bring it into this program. Again, that is a work in progress. They've been talking about it for about a year. Hopefully it will be in this next update. Had trouble getting 3D targets onto the wheels of cars. Yeah, that is kind of a struggling one. That's another function that I've played with, and I'm not very good at it too. It's because the object is kind of floating around in space. So what I found is if I go into a 2D view, throw the target close to the car, then go into 3D view, I can raise the target up pretty close to the wheel, and it works fairly decently. I don't know if there's any way that we can get them to snap those targets to wheels. I'll definitely ask about it, though. Yeah, it is kind of Visio on steroids. Kurt says we bought as most of our territory and got a better deal. Yeah, absolutely. That's what I'm saying. If you guys can get together, talk about it on the forums or something, make a forum post and say, hey, does anyone want to go in on this and see if we can get a better deal? See how many licenses you can get together and say, hey, we want to buy X amount of licenses. What else can you cut for us? How do you add a name brand on their lift like Rotary or Challenger? All right, so the way that I would tackle that, I think, is let's say that I want to put a name brand on here. I'm going to use what I've got available to me, which is not much at this point, but hang on just a second. I'm going to grab a custom object, and it's going to be a wall poster. And I'm going to scale that wall poster way down. I think that was probably, maybe, we'll say 8 inches. And the height, sure, we'll leave it at 3.3. Altitude, we'll bump that up to about 5 feet. And I'm going to select an image for it. And I'm like, again, you would have to find a Rotary logo or whatever you've got to use, but I'm going to make this all squishy. But we'll use this BTS tire logo. So let's go ahead and position it right next to the lift track and see what happens. Turn it to see if I can get an approximate angle of it. And we'll grab a camera, this guy. We'll make this, oops. If I select one of my existing cameras, I can say always start 3D from this, so I'll do that. We'll go ahead and launch in 3D mode. So you see what I was talking about. It squished it way down because it wasn't scaled correctly, but that's one way that you could get custom images on equipment. And it's kind of a cheater way to do it, but it's about the only way that I know of at the current time. All right. Guys, I appreciate your time. If you come in for training, I'm going to be doing some training on the courses too. Again, if you have any questions coming up to the con, I know we're running a big contest for you guys. If you have any questions coming up to that, please contact me. I'll help you as much as I can. And again, if I can't help you, the ECDesign folks, they will always help you.